All living things emanate an energy called curse energy, which arises from negative emotions that naturally flow throughout the body. Normal people can control this flow in their bodies, and as a result, they lose curse energy, resulting in the birth of curses. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's just pretend and avoid I didn't go on a full philosophical approach on this because, well, kind of at a loss for words, if I'm being perfectly honest here. So, I'll just go ahead and say, hey guys, what's going on? Lucky Cheese 7 is back again to give you guys, you guessed it, the long-awaited podcast on Jujutsu Kaisen 0. The movie, not the manga, because I already tackled that. But this has been a long time coming, and I have been so ever looking forward to this for a number of reasons. Now, originally, I'll say this was supposed to be just a review, but then somebody was talking to me about this, and they were like, hey, maybe we could try to turn this into a podcast discussion. I was like, yeah, maybe a podcast discussion could actually work, and it'll actually make it a lot more engaging, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, why not bring the man, the myth, the one who controls all the curses, Blue Star?
Hello, Lucky. Yes. I see you. Let's see how to introduce me as the Lord of all curses. And hello, everyone. BlueStarSaber here. Yes. Let's see. Joining Lucky Chi for a Jujutsu Kaisen project. Let's see. At least a Jujutsu Kaisen review. More accurate. Yes. A Jujutsu Kaisen review. And now, before anyone asks, oh my god, BlueStarSaber is reading and ongoingly reading Jujutsu Kaisen. No, I am not. I just saw the movie. I was curious about the movie because it was just adapted from the prequel manga thing. And as it's a prequel manga, it is technically finished. So if you want to go by Lucky Cheese superstitions about my supposed curse, you're fine.
Yes, and Blue Star has now graduated because I realized something that the cursed child has been an insult, not to Blue, but to our protagonist, and we can't have that. So I've decided, you know what, Blue, we'll still make you the one who controls all curses, but we will make you the Curse Lord.
The Curse Lord. I can't tell if that's better or worse.
I don't know. Like, I feel like some people in the comments will just be like, just call him the Cursed Child.
They'll be like, I don't want change. I don't want change. As For Life used to bring.
I was going to say, that sounds like...
Oh, he'll be like that if he finds out you're calling me now the Cursed Lord.
He'll be like, he's still cursed.
Yeah, and just so people know, yes, we have still not have had contact with For Life in ages.
Yeah, last time I was able to talk with them was back in June of last year. I'm guessing he's just been busy with things. So, when he's ready to come back, door's always open.
Yep. I'm very curious to see what has a few opinions and things, but we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about perhaps the biggest anime movie since Demon Slayer, Mugen Train.
I will say this though, for as far as Sparta goes, if you're listening to this, just know we miss you.
Uh-huh.
Or at least I miss you. I can't say the same for Blue.
I miss him.
You're right. That's James.
Even if he does call me the Cursed Child. But anyway, let's see. So yeah, So should we begin with the actual, let's see, initial thoughts and all that stuff?
Yeah. My initial thoughts. I'll go ahead and share my thoughts first on this. So I had read Volume Zero before I saw the movie, and I'll even go a step further. It was actually the first Jujutsu Kaisen thing I read before I even read the main series because, well, for those of you that don't know, I have to give a big shout out to Chad because she's actually the one who got me into Jujutsu Kaisen. So she was talking about it, and she was talking about like some of the symbolism aspects of the story, and I was like, well, I do like things when it comes to symbolisms and all that good stuff. So I was like, I could check out Jujutsu Kaisen, but rather than jump to the main story, I had heard that there was Volume Zero, which is essentially just the 4-chapter prequel story, and I thought, well, it's only 4 chapters. I could see if I end up liking it or not, and I read it, and then I was like, hmm. And I think this was like right around the time when the anime was just finishing up, and maybe like a day or two before they announced that there was gonna be a movie. So when I heard that they were doing a Jujutsu Kaisen movie and that it was gonna be based on Volume Zero, I was like, huh, that could work in a lot of ways, I would say. But in terms of me, when it came to my expectations, I was simply just looking forward to it. Long story short. What about you, Blue? What was your initial expectations for the movie?
Well, due to the fact I've never really read or watched Jujutsu Kaisen, I had no idea what really to expect. Well, but my whole thing with Jujutsu Kaisen is that I know that chat was such a big fan of it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was hearing about Jujutsu Kaisen that got me kind of intrigued by it, is the fact that it's like the world of Bleach. The setting is like the world of Bleach with hollows and all that stuff, but you have like, instead of like Ichigo and his friends, you have kind of like the main character is kind of like the Daimaka, but with Team 7, if you will.
Which it's funny you bring that up because King of Lightning mentioned that in one of his videos like a while ago. So it was kind of like that. Like I think I'm curious. I was like, okay.
It's like you have the dynamic with Team 7 with Naruto, but perhaps a bit more modern. Let's see, with perhaps more. Let's see, this sort of, I guess, the Sakura equivalent being a bit more of like early part 2, and the Sasuke equivalent being, well, less of a revenge psychopath, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So it's like that. And I have seen some clips on YouTube from this series and all that stuff, and it definitely does remind me, and the dynamics between the characters does kind of remind me of like some of the initial stages of like the Team 7 dynamic with like the main character and the main female character being two peas in a pot, if you will.
Yeah.
No, it's like, it's always funny. Particularly my favorite bit is when they're like, what to do, and then they're just hugging this giant dog. That's probably the funniest clip I have seen on YouTube.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I've only seen clips, people. I've not actually fully watched it, so you could argue that I've not technically cursed it.
He says technically.
Mm-hmm.
Technically is a very strong word, but
yeah. So I must admit, so part of me has been debating whether or not to watch it, though granted after Attack on Titan's ending. I'm pretty certain Lucky Chi doesn't want me reading any current ongoing series until one actually ends well. But yeah.
Hint, giving Blue the silent treatment right now. For goodness.
Funny enough, when you bring up King of Lightning, he ended up actually, funny enough, I actually remember one of his streams talking about how he stopped watching Attack on Titan after the basement reveal.
Yeah, but I get that though.
Yeah,
I mean,
but that's perhaps something to talk about after the stream. Anyway, but yeah, anyway, so That's what my basic knowledge of what Jujutsu Kaisen is, and apparently, let's see, I then eventually heard that, okay, there's going to be a movie, and it's like, oh, okay, so it's like, there's going to be something like Demon Slayer, but especially when it was adapting from the canon source material. And it turns out it was a prequel volume, which I did not know about, with a different character and all that stuff. So, okay, that'll be interesting. But yeah, but I've noticed that it's the so I was a bit curious because let's see, as this was also going to be, well, technically there are probably other manga adaptations that have become movies, like A Silent Voice becoming, let's see, the entire manga series becoming an entire movie. But this was like the second, I suppose you could say, mainstream shonen battle manga series that instead of doing either a non-canon filler movie or a original story canon movie, like, you know, Battle of the Gods, Naruto the Last, and Boruto the movie, and then the My Hero Academia films.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. This is like the second movie since the Demon Slayer movie that's being a movie based off of actual adapted content, let's see, from an ongoing storyline in shonen.
Yeah.
Okay, but this time they probably did it, let's see, in probably a bit more of a clever way in which, let's see, it's actually a prequel series, which, now that I think about it, if let's see, Fairy Tail Zero probably could have gotten away with that.
Fairy Tail Zero would have actually, I mean, for being totally logistical about that, Fairy Tail Zero, I think, was what? It went to a small amount of episodes, right?
Yeah. Let's see, 13 chapters, and I think I got 5 or 6 episodes from that. I haven't really watched it, but yeah. I've only read the manga, but still.
I think, yeah, you could have probably done a movie on Fairy Tail Zero. Would have been interesting,
But yeah.
actually.
Yeah. Fairy Tail could have started the trend, but it didn't. Missed opportunity. But yeah. But then again, I guess that's what happens in the times we live in. But yeah, Demon Slayer was the trend starter, the 2020s, really.
The new decade.
Yeah, and this is the trend start. This is the new thing for anime in the decade, it seems. Canon adaptation movies.
This is what we could call 2020 vision. Could call that.
Yeah, but we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah. So yeah, I was a bit curious since, as we know, with let's see, thanks to Demon Slayer, it's now shown. Let's see which became the highest grossing film of 2020, partly because of the pandemic. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Honestly, even with the pandemic, even if the pandemic wasn't there, I'd still think Demon Slayer probably would have done a lot.
Yeah, that is true. Let's see, it maybe might have done more, might have done less, but it probably would not have been in the top 10 in the box office.
That's true.
Because that's like for the Hollywood movies, and as we know, that's usually your Marvel, well, mostly Marvel, but your Disney films, the occasional blockbuster from one of the other studios like Warner Brothers or Paramount, exactly. But yeah, but mostly probably Disney stuff because that's what's been like for the 2010s at least.
Yeah,
Disney has dominated, but yeah, either because of Marvel, Star Wars, Pixar, or their own original content. But yeah. But given the fact that Demon Slayer became such a hit, I was curious to see, like, well, I guess that's more of the expectations of the movie. So, should we get on to that now, or?
Yeah. Well, we already talked about like whether or not we read Volume 0 before. I did. Like I said, Blue didn't, but that's fine.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
But no, I think that's fine because we get two different perspectives here. You get the perspective of someone who's read the volume, and then
someone that's just going in. So for me, I'm like I'm what many people usually expect, that the most casual. Let's see, I'm for the first time in a while, I'm like a casual audience viewer. It's like, okay, there's this movie coming out, so it's many ways like this is probably what, let's see, because for me this is like the movie that I expect it to be like a self-contained storyline. It's like something that you don't need to, since it's a prequel, it'd be like a story that, okay, I don't necessarily need to see the main series, but let's see, could this prequel have enough to like be like this own solo thing where like I just watch this movie and then nothing else if need be.
Oh yeah,
definitely. Because let's see, as we know from any long-running franchises, one of the things that there is to consider with a movie is that how familiar is the audience they know going to go and watch this.
And Two Heroes is a pretty good example of that. Although Two Heroes, I could argue, you could technically watch and not even see the main My Hero series, but you know.
Yeah, let's see if it's like, and then it's also kind of like the same with like the Naruto, Bleach, and One Piece films. Let's see, they're all and Dragon Ball movies. They're all like. Let's see, many of the non-canon stories would like, for those would like, you didn't have to really follow anything, you didn't have to really necessarily know anything in the worlds, follow the series, but they don't really give you enough info about the world itself. It's like its own non-canon, self-contained story, really.
Yeah, like Bleach, I think Fate the Black you could totally watch without knowing anything about the story. Road to Ninja's tricky, I would say. Road to Ninja's like a really, really tricky scenario. I could bring up.
It's more of a movie for long-time viewers, I'd say.
Yeah.
Let's see. The only one, arguably for Bleach, the only one that could probably be its own, when people have never watched the series before, it's probably the live-action Japanese adaptation, which was actually pretty good.
Yeah, I actually like that one.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to adapt the first arc of Bleach, that was probably into a live action. That was probably the best way you could do it.
Oh, definitely.
Now, if not, they ever do a sequel to that, I do not know.
You have to probably make a few liberties here and there.
Yeah.
But
since, let's be honest, the remaining Bleach arcs are mega long.
Especially Soul Society.
Oh, yeah.
Especially that one. Soul Society doesn't top
the Aranka Saga.
Aranka Saga or even the 1,000-Year Blood War.
Yes, the Blood War is just 2 volumes longer than the Fourth Great Ninja War, and the Aranka Saga is practically the entirety of Part 1 of Naruto.
You're right.
And Full Metal and the entirety of Full Metal Alchemist.
Right. And the entire run of Dr. Stone.
Oh, okay, that is 27 volumes. Fair enough.
Well, 26 volumes. Dr. Stone 26.
Well, you probably know what the box set of Dr. Stone's going to be then.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
that's if it gets a box set.
Yeah, that's true.
It might. Who knows?
Granted, I'm probably not going to get that one, really. Probably just, if I do buy Dr. Stone, it'll probably be digital. So, so I knew nothing of the movie, but I knew that it was the prequel series, so I assumed that the protagonist would probably be like, he has his own self-contained story, and is probably going to have like a tragic end, because that's what usually happens in most prequels.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah. And they normally don't really get happy endings, because they're supposed to be prequels, because the whole point of a prequel is to set up the main storyline.
But Blue, don't you understand what the audience wants? They want the character to live a long, happy life. I hope you get the reference of that. If you don't,
I'm pretty certain I'm thinking of which one you're talking about. I'll probably double check with you after the stream, but I get the idea. But yeah, most prequels end in tragedy because they're supposed to be the generation that fails, with the original story being the generation that succeeds, if you will.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, ends in a bittersweet thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was expecting the main character to probably not make it out alive. I'll probably say that.
That's fair. Which, truth be told, and by the way, this is going to be a spoiler cast. If anyone's curious, I mean, I'm gonna say by now, most of y'all probably seen it. Most of y'all. So if y'all haven't seen the movie, even up to now, your best bet is probably okay. You have two options: either you read Volume 0, or you just wait until it comes
The
out.
DVD comes out.
Yeah, there's only two options. So that's all I have to say. So fair warning. That's it. But go on, Blue.
So yeah, I figured that he was probably going to die and all that stuff, and there'd probably be at least some characters from the main series that was going to be in here. At the very least, the mentor character I knew from the trailers and all that stuff. And from what I could tell, the secondary characters from like the main cast's faction, if you will, I guess, or school, from what I understand. And from what my impression of those guys were, they're like the team guy characters, but the equivalent of team guy in Jujutsu Kaisen, like the older, more experienced group, if you will.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Let's see, because I knew that in Jujutsu Kaisen, while they have like the dynamic of Team 7, there's no like Team 10 or Team 8, if you will. Which probably, to be fair, means a bit more.
I think that's a good thing, though, because the last thing you want to do is like have an overstuffed size of characters, and then like more than 90% of them don't bring anything to the table once you get to the second half of the story.
That is fair, though. Granted, let's see. Even cast of characters like One Piece and My Hero Academia, despite having, for the most part, and even Black Clover handling their cast of characters, even they sometimes struggle now and then.
I would probably say Black Clover probably
is the best.
Handles its side characters
the best. Yeah. But yeah. But mainly more of My Hero Academia, because they have like 20 students in a class.
They have way too many.
Yeah.
Like, I know we're on the final arc and everything, and I'm sitting here going like, okay.
Let's just be fair, it's based on a school year thing. But anyway, One Piece, let's see. On one hand, it's much better than the big three. It still sometimes feels like it takes a very long time for some of them to get their shining moment.
It's like snail's pacing. You just gotta. Well, it's like that episode of SpongeBob when you're trying to watch the snail's race. It's like that.
Yeah, it is to an extent. But yeah, so I knew that at least some characters were going to be here. I didn't know if the villain was just going to be an original villain for the thing, or one of the villains that are going to be in the main manga. But at the very least, let's see. I knew it was just going to be this character that was before the main one from the. Let's see, what's his name again? The main character in Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yuji.
Yuji. It was going to be probably someone that was before Yuji. Whether or not he was going to be very similar to Yuji or very different, I did not know.
Oh wait, are you talking about the main character in this, or
Jujutsu Kaisen?
Yeah, the main character in
Itadori.
It's Yuji Itadori.
Itadori, yeah. I didn't know if he was going to be the main character in this prequel movie. It was going to be the same as the main series, a sort of like previous, it's a sort of like the Obito to Naruto situation, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it was going to be like the complete opposite. But yeah. So I expected so those are probably all my expectations. Really, unless you want to have any more you want to say.
Wait, okay, I'll be honest. I'll touch on this briefly, but when I got into the volume for the manga, I kind of had similar thoughts. So I was like, well, okay, if we're not focusing on the guy in the main series, something probably happens to Yuta, but which I think is a good segue for us to tackle the story, positive and negatives. Now, here's what I want to ask you, Blue. Do you want to tackle positives and negatives first, or do you want to tackle them both simultaneously?
So, just to be clear, we're not summarizing the story of the movie, right?
No.
Okay. Well, I guess the positives for me of this movie is that, granted, though this might vary in your taste of pet taste, it's like it kind of the story is pretty dark in some places. It's like,
Yeah.
blimey. In fact, the opening scene, it kind of shocked me just how dark it was. Where the main character ended up, in a many sense, is similar, I guess you could say, to like, actually kind of reminded me of Naruto's situation in a sense, where he has like a
I
monster.
was just about to say, no joke, I was just about to say the same thing.
It's like, yeah, but instead of like a monster that Naruto is not aware of, he is, and the bullies who try to pick on him end up getting stuffed in a locker. It's like, well, now granted, they're not, from my understanding, they're not dead.
No, like, okay, here's the thing. And I'm gonna be bringing up the manga a lot with this too. I remember reading that, and I was like, I don't know how the movie's gonna do it, but it's probably gonna be a little gruesome, man. When I saw it in the movie, I was like, yep, that's exactly how I pictured it.
It's like, but yeah, so it's like, okay, that was literally it's like, blimey, that was dark. So yeah, this series is definitely like, a more mature version of Bleach and Naruto, if you will. But yeah, so the positive of that, and
Good comparison I could bring this up to for anyone, especially Naruto fans. Think of Opart Hunter. Think of how dark that was. Reminded me of that a little bit.
fair enough. But yeah, so it's like, this is kind of like, semi Bleach's and Naruto's semi dark spiritual success, if you will.
Yep.
Which, to be fair, because in many ways you could argue My Hero Academia is the spiritual successor of Naruto in some regards.
Mm-hmm.
And Demon Slayer, I think, has been regarded as somewhat of Bleach's spiritual success in another sense.
Yeah.
And this one is like the combined successor. And I guess maybe the same could be said with Black Clover, though. It's interesting. I would probably mention is that how in this in the late 2010s and early 2000s, you're probably having a debate on about which of these four manga series is the new big three.
Yeah, right.
In fact, in many ways, it could be argued that the whole big three generation thing is no more, and now we have a big four.
Right.
I mean, I do know that Fairy Tail was at one point regarded as the unofficial big four, but of the big three, but that was like only for a brief time.
Keep this in mind, guys. This is in Weekly Shonen Jump too, so just want to point that out.
Yeah, but anyway, I suppose a bit more on the movie. I think one of the positives of this movie is that it explains the world of Jujutsu Kaisen quite well.
It does.
Let's see, because let's face it, because this is something that probably has over like all the other anime movies that I've seen, because well, they're mostly either self-contained filler stories or sort of in between canon stories, or just or some later canon thing. Is that many of those movies don't really tell you much about the world of like the settings and thing. Now, granted, I guess you could argue the Pokemon does that. Those in the world of Pokemon, a quick narration before. Let's see, just so people can get a general idea of what the Pokemon world is like.
Yeah, I think the Pokemon movie, you could argue, was probably the one franchise where you could just walk in any movie and be fun with it.
Though arguably, you probably went with arguably in the Diamond and Pearl saga, you probably want to start with the Darkrai movie, as it ended up being as the time and ended up being an official time and space trilogy. I was loosely
not just that, but even okay, if we're going to talk about the third movie for Pokemon, that's the only one I'd argue. Watch up to Johto and then go from there. I would say.
But yeah. But yeah, so it's stuff like that. So yeah, let's see. It explained the world quite well to me and all that stuff. And in many ways, it felt like this could have been a long, ongoing series if it wasn't. Let's see, beginning of a long, ongoing series if it wasn't for the fact that it's a prequel.
Yeah.
Let's see. The animation is fantastic.
Oh, without a doubt.
I'm not sure if it's as, let's see, granted this is probably let's see, for the debate for later, as good as, like, say, Bones' My Hero Academia movies, or even, let's see, Demon Slayer's own movie, but it's pretty great and all that stuff. Let's see, other things I liked about it is that I do like how the main character, Yuta Okkotsu, is, in many ways, let's see, granted that's probably for later, but I do like how it builds off his relationships with each of the students there.
Well, except for Panda.
Well, except for the panda, but that's probably, I'll get into that in a second.
But to be fair, actually, go ahead and get to your point. I'll address that.
But yeah, but I do like how let's see, particularly he bonds with, let's see, what's the glasses girl's name again? Maki. I do like how he bonds with her a bit, and we end up learning a bit of her backstory, which I'm not sure if she's revealed in the main manga timeline at all to the main cast, but it's done quite a bit here, and you can, let's see, it's an interesting relationship, and and it is sort of teased with romantic in some regards, though that's perhaps for later bit of your discussion, from what I could tell. But I do like the sort of bond that it's the bond that he forms with her, since she's like, since she went with him on the first mission, and she was there with him when the third act and all that stuff for the most part. Though I also do like how he also bonds with that voice dude, screaming
with Togi.
Yeah, Togi. Yeah. And let's see, I do like a little bit of the setup about, let's see, with the mentor character, the sort of Kakashi, if you will.
With Gojo.
Yeah, Gojo, who, from my understanding, is a mix of the Kakashi, but also like, say, the Hokage, if you will, like the All Might, if you will, like the strongest character in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Because from what I've been noticing from about the new generation of big manga and all that stuff, is that their mentor characters, who are usually like the Kakashis, seem to be like, end up also being the strongest ones there, because as a sort of like in Shonen Jump commentary of like how they're like, let's see, like they're like the whole big dogs of like Naruto and Bleach back in the day, but now they're gone, and it's now for the new generation to take over. Once these, let's see, powerhouses are pretty gone and all that stuff, but that's probably a debate for another day at least. But if not, that's true. But yeah, but I do kind of like how they have a bit of a world setting with him, where it seems like he's dealing with like some sort of, what the Jujutsu Kaisen's, let's see, sorcerer. Are they curses or sorcerers in this? I'm forgetting again. Sorry, I've only watched the movie once. What are the Jujutsu Kaisen, let's see, magic users called here, or spiritual users called here?
They should be. I'm gonna say sorcerers, but let me double check on that real quick.
Okay. Let's see. We get a little bit of like their sort of government, if you will, which is kind of kept as a secret, since they're not supposed to be known to the world and all that stuff. In many ways,
society, yeah.
In many ways, they kind of remind me of like the Central 46 of Bleach, if you will.
Jujutsu sorcerers.
Yeah, the Jujutsu sorcerers. Yeah. So we have a little bit of like how the world of Jujutsu, the world of government is run, if you will, or at least the society of sorcerers.
Yeah.
One thing I'd probably also say that I liked is the villain. Let's see, who was a friend of like, Gojo. Who was like, let's see, but he's he's also a special class as the protagonist, and where he's like, but thinks that they, the minority, the sorcerers who have all the power, should be the supreme, let's see, rulers of the thing, and humans should bow to them and all that stuff. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
So I found him quite, let's see, fun as a villain, and how just happy-go-lucky and how just casual he is when he went to talk to the protagonists and all that stuff. And I do like how he has a bit of a initial plan in many ways. You could argue, this is what I've thought that Obito's plan was when he declared the Fourth Great Ninja War at first, where he declared war on the Kages, had like all the allied shinobi forces battle his forces while having, while they're busy occupied by fighting them in the war. You have a secret, you'd secretly go and then snatch like the Jinchuriki from behind the scenes, like he did with Kisame, which was the end. But here, of course, you have the villain trying to do what's the villain's name again, by the way?
Suguro Geto.
Subaru Geto, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's like declares war on the source with all the sort of curses, demons, or ghouls, if you will, he's collected over the years, using them to battle them, while he then goes behind the scenes to steal Yuta's curse, his former love interest, if you will, who tragically died and then became a monster that now is like very possessive of him and will destroy any threat or any, and in some case, maybe any woman she's jealous of.
Can I just say that that scene where the truck runs her over? Okay, granted, you don't exactly see the truck run her over, but the aftermath of that,
yeah,
that had me in tears. I was like, god damn
it. Well, I wasn't in tears, but I was like, whoa, that is dark.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Movie just started off too, so
yeah.
What you will.
Yeah, but yeah, the villain. But I did find it was kind of it's like one of those cute things they do in Japanese movies, like whether you have little childhood friends saying, "Let's get married in the future." Now, whether or not that actually happens in real life in Japan, I do not know, but
who knows?
It might just be just a typical romance thing they do in Japan, stories for romance. It might just be something typical they do for romance stories there, but
could be.
I mean, each culture has its own way of telling romance stories.
Yeah.
For us Brits, it usually ends up being tragic. You know, Romeo and Juliet.
Yep.
But
all anyway. You had to do was check the pulse. That's all you had
to do. Yeah, but anyway.
Then again, we were talking about the 1800s.
Yeah,
so
I liked his plan of like causing a war as a distraction. Let's see. So there was that, and I do like the fight and what the main character had to do to defeat the bad guy, which finally frees his like a love interest, if you will, from the curse and all that stuff.
Rika, yeah.
Yeah. And while I was a bit surprised that the main character didn't die, he still sort of lost something, if you will. But at the same time, let's see, that loss finally gave a bit of closure, if you will.
I'm going to say this. Yeah, get me to cry in the beginning of the movie, and you get me to cry at the end of the movie. That, you've done something if that happens.
Yeah. So there's that. I do like how the death of the villain is, but it's like, despite the fact that he's very cruel, he does, in his own mind, still have the best interests of sorcerers everywhere.
Yeah.
Failed.
I like how with Geto, it's not outright shown that he died, but it's more of like a strongly implied death.
Yeah. But from my tell, he's probably not in the ongoing Ritzy series at all, so he's probably still dead from what you're describing.
Yeah.
Or are you keeping that no spoiler for me?
I don't know.
Let's see. But anyway, other than that, I do kind of like how they did the cameos of all the let's see, side characters from like the other schools and other factions of sorcerers in the war kind of thing. I'm not sure if that was like a movie only edition or if that actually happened in the manga.
I'll go ahead and say that. So, being someone who's read the manga, all the stuff with the other schools, the other cast of characters from the different schools, that's actually movie only content.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's it. But I think that that's interesting. But I think in a sense they could get away with that because, well, from my understanding from the clips I've seen, particularly with the muscle guy that ends up considering the main character Jujutsu Kaisen his brother after finding out they have the same type of woman. After he talked about how he like tall women and all that stuff.
Oh, like, we referring to Buff Shikamaru.
Yeah.
Odo? Yeah.
Is that what people are calling him?
No, that was the first impression I got when I saw him. I was like, oh, it's just Buff Shikamaru. And then I was like, okay, no, his name is Toto.
See, the super strong guy that no one likes because of his attitude. But he somehow manages to form a bond with the main character.
Right.
Because I just know because I've seen the baseball clip scene. And that was
pretty cool.
Yeah, it's like no one likes you. But yeah, it's like brother after finding that out about they have the same taste in women, even though the main character was just guessing on the spot.
Right.
So yeah, I think that. But from my understanding, they were like all second and third years anyway by the time of the main series. So I think it's a harmless cameo for like a treat for fans, I guess you could say.
Yeah, I know if you watch the movie first and you see those characters, it's like, okay, they're like you're not gonna sit there and go like, huh, okay. Now they're gonna have some quirks when you're like, okay, she seems kind of funny, but if you're just watching the movie and haven't seen the show, it's gonna be one of those things where you're like,
might be a little bit confused, but if you have some history, you have it like, okay.
Yeah.
But in many ways, you could also just view it as like a Star Wars cameo thing where you got all these just random background characters doing stuff and then they become like diehard fans, eventually become obsessed like, who's this guy? Who's this name? I'm going to name him blah, blah, blah. Because that is what the Star Wars fandom does with every movie, you know it.
I mean, let's not forget about Rise of Skywalker. We got all those voices.
Voices. Probably not really that I was referring to, but yeah. But anyway,
keep going.
So other than that, the only thing I did kind of like is the fact that since I do know that it did kind of do an MCU kind of thing with the post credits.
I did like that too.
It's just like, oh, it's like teasing more. It's like, oh, Anime's really is taking the MCU to an account thing and all this. So
yeah, but then again, animes have done that before too. Like even in Fade to Black, I remember when you finish the movie, like there's a little small scene where Cohen's like still frozen.
Yeah, but that's more of like a comedy thing. But this is like the first time I've seen a post credit that's kind of like set up something.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done post credits before, but it's like, okay, this is setting up something, and tell me that we're going to see this this character again at some point. I assume that, and from my understanding, he does appear in the main Jujutsu Kaisen manga series.
Yeah, he does. I'll go ahead and say that is that I won't say when, but he does pop back up at some point.
But yeah, so that's probably the thing. Other than that, I will probably also comment that the main way is Yuta Okkotsu. Granted, actually, I'll probably get more into that with Yuta Okkotsu when we're talking about the character journey thing. But yeah, but overall, I'd say those are all my positives for the movie.
Those are your positives?
Yeah. You've got anything do you want to add that I have left out?
In terms of positives, well, I already mentioned the fact that I cried twice watching this movie. So if a movie can do that to where you have tears running down your face, you know you've done something good. So That should tell you something. And let me be fair, I'm not the type of guy that cries when I watch a movie. So and I'm not saying I cried where I was bawling out, but tears were just coming down. I was like, I'm just like, and keep in mind, guys, this is someone who knew what was coming from the source material, and if that happens, like I said, movie's done a fantastic job, I would say. What other positives I could name?
I guess you could talk about the fight scenes.
The fight scenes were really cool. I also really like the song too that they picked. Greatest Strength. Like it's the song they played like in the opening credits as Yuta was like walking down the halls. It's all in English, by the way. Like I don't know if you remember it, but when they showcase the hallways and whatnot, like that song is just playing, and I remember I was just like, "That's a really good song."
Okay, yeah, I can't remember it, but yeah, I did like this. I think the soundtrack was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. What else was pretty cool? Oh, just want to point this out to people. Yuta doing the Black Flash, that's a movie only scene. That actually doesn't happen in the Volume 0 manga. So I thought that was a pretty neat addition too that they threw in. Because I remember I was watching the fight scene between him and Geto, and when that scene happened, I was like, hold up. I've read Volume 0. I do not remember that being there. So but at the same time, I was like, that's pretty cool though.
So they added a fight scene that did not happen in the manga.
Well, no, they gave Yuta a move that he didn't use in that fight. So the fight did happen.
Okay,
it's just that little move didn't happen. I was just like,
oh. Is that in the final fight or somewhere in the mid fights kind of thing?
The final. I think it's like when the two of them are fighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I do like the little what's it called? The moments he has with Maki and Toji, and even though it was brief, I did like the little moment he had with Panda, where Panda was like, "Hey, what kind of you know what do you like?"
Yeah, Blue, I did like how
Blue knows what I'm referring to. So.
Yeah, yes, yeah, yes. That was like, blimey, that was see, blimey, that feels like some. Let's see, that feels like something you shouldn't really. That feels like, yeah, that's clearly classic Japan, but I think it's much more maturely handled, I'd say.
No, it's funny because I like it, and like I said, guys, reading the manga and seeing that, I remember reading that and I was like, was funny. It's a little out of left field, but okay. So I got a good kick out of that and just getting
I did like how
reaction.
I did like how Mark ends up beating the panda up after that. It's like, you idiot!
He clearly ships those two. You know it.
Yeah, he's a shipper. He was like, Koro Sensei, let's hook him up.
Right. I think outside of that, I think that's pretty much all the positives I can give for the movie. Actually, I'll say this: for a movie that was an hour and 45 minutes, it certainly didn't feel like an hour and 45 minutes. I'll say that. I mean that in a good way.
In many ways, it did feel like a couple of anime episodes.
Mm-hmm. Kind of did.
Let's see. Which it could have easily become, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I take it you wanted to go to the negatives now, or if there's anything else you need to say?
Negatives. Let me think. No, positives. I think we're pretty much done. So in terms of negatives, well, It's interesting that we brought Panda up because you
Yeah.
could make the case that we didn't really get a bonding moment with Yuta and Panda in
Yeah, he
the
was just
film.
there for comedy, really.
Yeah, and actually, it's funny because even the mangaka Gege, he or she, I can't really know if it's ever revealed what gender the author is, but it's funny because when I was reading Volume Zero, I want to say at the end of Chapter 3, um, there's this little illustration, and you have Panda saying, "What? I thought I was gonna get a spotlight with you," and I was like, "That's actually kind of funny." You know what?
Yeah, that is kind of. But yeah, it's like there isn't really time for him to bond, and he's the only one that you don't really learn the history of. It's like, okay, it's the only thing that's not been explained. Like, why is there a talking panda in this movie?
No, and Yuta even points out too. He's like, "Huh, the one I'm interested in, Panda."
Yeah, it's like, why is the talking panda? That has probably been my. That would be like the thing that would probably interest me the most if I was in Yuta's place. It's like, oh my god, a talking panda!
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's more of a nitpick though. Than
Yeah. No, I do wonder if the panda is the equivalent of like the Jiraiya, the Sanjis, the Zenitsu kind of character. That's a bit, you know, the class. Let's see, probably should let's see, learn. Let's see, often gets on the woman's nerves for doing. Let's see, for perhaps maybe how should we say certain respects, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
Let's see, but yeah.
probably say so.
But yeah, let's see. That's my impression of him, at least. But I could be wrong. But yeah, so it's like, I mean, he does get some moments towards the final bit of the fight, I guess you could say, with like trying to help with like when you have like all of like the let's see, classmates trying to help protect Yuta and then Maki and all that stuff, but they get their butts beaten.
And that was pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie, that it was actually pretty cool to see him win.
Yeah. Other than that, I'd say my other negative would probably be the secondary villains that are part of the main villains group. I mean, the monsters themselves are fine; they're just there to help set up and explain stuff.
Yeah, the other characters in Ghetto's little faction,
Yeah,
they don't really do too much.
yeah. I mean, yeah, they feel like let's see, they feel like they can even be there at all. To be honest, I mean, okay, granted, the dark skinned dude from I think from the African continent, or is he from South Africa or something? Let's see. At least that's what I'm guessing. Because I know that we'd see at the end of the movie that's where
with Miguel, yeah.
yeah, Yuta is with him and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
having a sort of a broad study thing. And
Yeah, I'd probably say Miguel's probably like the only standout from Ghetto's little faction.
yeah, and there's also the fact that it shows that there are, let's see, other sorcerers around the world, not just in Japan and all that stuff.
Yep.
So it does give a sense of diversity and all that stuff, if you will.
Definitely.
But yeah, he's mainly bringing there because he's arguably the only one that they have besides like the villain who needs to steal like let's see Yuta's curse in order to get enough power to take on Jugen. He's the only one that could probably last long against him. And as we can see, let's see from we saw in the movie that Jugen is that isn't the white Kakashi equivalent white hair blue eye person.
Oh, Gojo.
Yeah, Gojo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see from his fight scene that we do get to see with him. He is really powerful. It's like he is. The guy is on the defense against him. It's like not once is he and has the advantage. So it's like he lives up to the height of being the strongest sorcerer, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see why the villain wants to steal. What's the curse of Yuta called again? Rika, sorry. But to keep in mind, people, I've only watched this movie once, so I'm not going to remember all the names.
And I only remember because I've read Volume 0.
Yeah, you've probably had a lot more time, to invest in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm just a casual viewer.
Well, not even. It's not even just that, but I've read Volume 0
hmm
a little bit more than I have with the main series, so
Yeah.
that's that too.
So yeah. But it's mainly those two girls that at first maybe I thought were twins, but they're more of just like two high school girls who
The one that Geto saves, right? Yeah.
yeah. Let's see, but they're the ones who save because they were like treated as. On one hand, they have tragic backstory and all that stuff of being outcasts in their hometown or village, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't really do anything, and you'd kind of think that they'd be set up to fight either like the other students in Yuta's class group or someone else that's there during the fight and all that stuff. But let's see, they just do a few battle scenes and then afterwards they disappear. Let's see, now granted, with the one that for Jogan, he's clearly up. There's clearly been something built with him like with Yuta at the end, the post credit scenes, apparently helping him in his studies and all that stuff. So that is his. But with the two, let's see, but with the other ones, I don't even know what he's planning to do with them. I don't know what purpose he has, but they just showed up, they were there, and then they were gone. I mean, it's just like in terms of, I mean, at least with like say Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach videos, movies, when they ever had like the henchman characters in them, they at least did something with them, I guess you could say. And then they got beaten. Now, granted, I suppose these side characters, I'm hearing an echo, I think, but
they're kind of like.
let's see, but yeah,
if I'm to bring up a comparison, think of them very similarly to say like the Joker, like Joker's henchmen. They're kind of like that.
Yeah. Let's see. Now, granted, I'm wondering if they're going to be used in the manga series reason. That's the reason why they're not. Let's see why they're not dead by the end of the thing. But at the moment, it feels like they're kind of pointless.
Yeah. And like I said, that probably would be the only weak point I would say with the movie.
Let's see. I mean, perhaps maybe if the movie and the manga had more panel space and time, they could have done some fight scenes with some of the side characters, I guess, supporting cast. But other than that, I don't really see the purpose of them. You could have just had Yuta thing by himself, but I guess the manga wants to say that okay, yes, he's gathering a Ritzy following of sorcerers, and they're going to do their Ritzy revolution, if you will. So that is probably my negatives, unless you want to add anything else.
No, that's actually what I would say for my negatives too. Would be probably just like I said, the characters from Ghetto's faction. I would say were the only real weak spot I would say that the movie has. Just that.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe you could say Yuta's training was a little too fast too, but
yeah,
we did see like little glimpses of it here and there, so it's not like we didn't see Yuta's training at all.
So other than that, you could argue it's the only one of that's the UK's group that is like the one that's with Yuta at the end. That's the only one that could sort of stand out. But other than that, kind of pointless.
Yeah.
So I take it we should now go to character journey and all that stuff.
Yep, I think now it's perfect to segue into the journey of the main protagonist himself with Yuta. So I actually want to hear your thoughts on Yuta first, BlueStarSaber.
Well, my impression of Yuta is that he's got the curse of Naruto of having a demon inside him, but the personality of Midoriya Isuku.
I can kind of see that.
Where he has like a cursed monster that makes him a bit of an outcast, but that has the confidence of like Midoriya and sort of shyness, if you will.
At least in the beginning, he does.
Yeah. So in many ways, that is kind of like interesting. It's like okay, so it's like now, granted, I'm not sure if Yuta's been inspired by Midoriya because I guess you could argue Midoriya is kind of like a sort of new type of shonen protagonist, at least one that's not been commonly seen in most shonen manga. As most shonen manga tends to be witty, stubborn, idiotic, I guess you could say.
Okay, so let's see here. Jujutsu Kaisen, if we're going to be super technical here, debuts back to 2017. So it's a few years off from My Hero.
So yeah, you could argue that's the case. Are you hearing an echo, Lucky Chi? I'm sorry.
Nope.
Okay, that's me. But anyway, so that was my I guess impression of him. But I do like how he becomes a bit more confident as the series progresses and he gains more friends and all that stuff, and he becomes a bit more determined to find a way of lifting his curse. Because at the beginning, he feels like he's on a little bit of a suicide watch, if you will. Like he just wants to be locked away, and if he could, he'd probably maybe even embrace the mercy of death, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But as he begins to understand his powers and bonds more, he realizes what he needs to do to try and save his friends and even save Riku in the end.
Rika.
Let's see, Rika, but yeah. And I do like how at the end, when he realizes that, okay, it was my curse that, my feelings of not accepting that she was gone that led her to suffer to this, apologizes and is able to finally set her free and all that stuff.
See, that's how you do a red herring. I'm just gonna say that right now. I love that because I remember I was watching that and I was reading and I was like, okay, you know what? Some people may think that comes out of nowhere, but if you look at all the clues in the story, actually matches pretty well.
Yeah. I'm not sure if some people will be put off by the fact that he's descendant from a powerful Jujutsu sorcerer that's in the same bloodline as Goju, but let's see. But then again, from my understanding, Jujutsu Kaisen, the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, isn't exactly one of like an underdog story, if you will.
Yeah.
So I think it's fine. But yeah, but I do like how he's able to. I do like his fighting styles, how he's able to channel like Riku and then eventually his own powers, I assume, into the sort of like black sword and all that stuff.
The one that Gojo gives him, yeah.
But I definitely say his most appealing relationship is with Maki, and him learning about her. Let's see, how she's a bit of an outcast herself, if you will, from her own family. No, I'm just trying to remember the bits and pieces because I know that she does not have like this particular special gift that her family is supposed to have or something.
Yeah, like she's the outcast of the Zenin clan, if you will.
Mm-hmm. And she just determined to prove that she's just as good, if not better, than the rest of them.
Yeah, you could kind of say it's similar to Noelle from Black Clover.
Yeah,
in that sense.
So I suppose props to that. But yeah, I definitely say his relationship to her was quite the high point, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's see what else is there to talk about. Mm-hmm. But I do like how now, even with like Riku's gone, he still he still has some powers and all that stuff, and he's still determined to be a sorcerer because he was only like going to do it until Rika was freed from her curse and all that stuff. But now that he's been invested in this world, he's still training and even goes to study abroad to help Ritzy do like his I guess Ritzy. I'm trying to think of the term. Let's see, give himself a variety of knowledge or something, was it?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, I'm trying to remember the exact
wisdom.
I guess pool of knowledge, pool of skills,
like seeking knowledge. I think is what you're looking for.
Seeking knowledge, yeah, if you will. Probably, but maybe not. But yeah, I like that. But yeah, I do think it's an interesting character journey of like this let's see, timid person to like this confident person, if you will. It definitely reminds me of Midoriya.
Yeah, maybe even more so than Midoriya, because
Yeah.
okay, it's not that we don't see Midoriya grow out of that, because we do, but Midoriya does have a habit of going back on that side more often than not, which some people could argue was a detriment to his growth as a character.
Granted, we probably it should also be noted that let's see, this is a self-contained story, and this is not a very long ongoing thing. So,
Yeah.
let's see, Yuta has the advantage of let's see, growing as a character a bit quicker than Midoriya.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But yeah, but I could see, but if it wasn't for the fact this manga series was a prequel, I could see it being an ongoing. Let's see, this being a bit more of an ongoing series, even if it's only like a mini limited series, or even like a prequel spin-off like Vigilantes or Before the Fall.
Yeah.
Yuta, I can see that working. But anyway, I suppose that's all my thoughts. You can give yours.
So my thoughts on Yuta kind of falls in lines with the themes of it too, where it's like you said, I really like how you see Yuta go from being, shy, timid, very insecure about how to handle things because of what happened to Rika. And I do like how throughout his journey we do see him grow. And we see this in, like, again, when we've talked about Maki and Toji and their importance to Yuta, but like specifically with Maki, you know, he learns to have kind of a desire to find a goal and find essentially kind of like find a reason for living. That's what we find out from Yuta when it comes to that, because even Maki asks him, like, what is it you want to do? And he tells her that I want to find a reason to keep living, which is.
Yeah, it's like why I said he feels like he's kind of suicidal at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then with Toji, it was about gaining trust, like learning to trust people that you're not so sure about, like if you're gonna, get along with them. But that was probably one of the big things too, because at first he was like, "Not sure how I feel about Inumaki," but then as that fight goes on and you see them team up, he learns to accept it.
Yeah, and I do like how he's determined to really help those kidnapped children by that monster.
Mm-hmm. And then also, this is also kind of goes into the final fight he has with Geto, where when he sees Maki, Toji, and Panda like on the floor, like where they get wasted essentially. That's where you also kind of explore like Yuta's okay. Maybe Yuta's dark side wouldn't be the right terminology to use, but you do get to see his rage and just how dangerous Yuta could actually be as a fighter.
Yeah, in many ways, it's like one of those rage moments you have with a shonen protagonist where, well, granted, maybe not fully like when Naruto gets enraged, he turns into a monster, if you will.
No, not like that, but like because when you look at Yuta, it's like you see the strength in his and how his power set is, but when you see it in his fight when he's like there's no cuffs and whatnot,
Yeah.
it can be pretty dangerous. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. It's like the "don't mess with my friends" moment for a shonen protagonist.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I really liked, and we touched on this too, was the whole farewell scene he had with Rika, and it was just coming to terms of accepting that it wasn't Rika that cursed him; it was him that cursed her, And I'm not gonna lie, that goodbye scene really got me too. When
Yeah,
she was like, "Hey, don't whatever you plan to do, like, don't plan on coming anytime soon." I'm like, "Oh,
yeah, I do. I will admit, I do like how Rika is never angry at Yuta for like, let's see, for accidentally cursing her.
yeah." And honestly speaking, like, I thought it was really touching when she said that the 6 years she spent after dead were like one of her best moments, and I was like, "Wow."
Even though you probably made it, even though you probably made Yuta a bit scared the entire time.
Yeah, it just goes to show like Yuta's progression of the story and seeing where he was at the beginning and seeing where he is at the very end. And it's interesting because like at the very end we do see him still wearing the ring that Rika gave him.
Yeah, it sounds from what I can tell, he's holding on to the memory, but he's holding on to the memory, but has let go of all the problems and traumas, I guess you could say of it.
Yeah.
Let's see. I guess you could say all the baggage is gone, but now it's like just fond memories.
Yeah, it's like what's that thing called? It's like all that weight's been lifted off his shoulders and he can finally just, move forward in life. I think now it's a good way to transition into overall thoughts. And I know I already kind of covered my thoughts on the themes for the movie, but do you have anything you want to add, Blue, to the
Let's
themes?
see. I have to admit, I think for the let's see, the theme that kind of sticks out to me is like let's see, is the theme of trying to find a purpose to live, because it's like anyway, this movie kind of like is the closest thing to remind me of like possibly some sort of theme of like how depression and isolation could lead to sort of suicidal in a sense, since a silent voice, though I'd probably still argue, since that's the main thing with a silent voice, I'd say that movie probably handles it a bit better than let's see, Jujutsu Kaisen, because it's also like an action movie.
Yeah.
But I still think it was pretty good, and I think it's interesting how Jujutsu Kaisen is exploring this topic, as it doesn't actually normally get explored in shonen manga, if we would be honest.
Hmm.
So yeah, but I definitely like how it's like that the bonds of friendship has been portrayed in this thing. It's like,
And it's not overplayed either. That's the thing, because I know Shonen Z's like to overplay that trope a lot, but
yeah,
I like how here, like, you see it more so than.
it kind of reminds me of like the early Naruto days, where like he's able to bond with like Team Seven, and it's why he's so attached to these people. You could argue definitely, and maybe perhaps become too attached in terms of Sasuke later, but still.
No, Sasuke.
But yeah,
I know if James were here, he would have a lot to say about that.
yeah, but yeah. But I definitely say it kind of reminds me of that, though perhaps a bit more, but perhaps a bit more quicker, and perhaps in some ways, perhaps a bit more organically better, if you will.
I would say so.
But yeah, so I definitely think the theme of let's see, of like finding a will to live, finding a purpose in life is quite good. I also probably like
It's kind of like what's that thing called? Like, like you're stuck in like darkness and there's that light at the end of the tunnel.
yeah,
Kind of like that.
but I also think there's like a theme of like also letting go at some point as well, particularly with like the scenes with Rico and Yuta.
Yeah.
Like in many ways, because I think this particular like when you like have a person you care about that's died, be it a relative, lover, or friend, or something, it can be a bit hard to let go, accept that they're gone, if you will.
Yep.
I think this movie also does a good way of portraying that as well. That's probably all I have to say about the themes. Other than that, I'd say it's pretty good. It's the standard shonen action movie.
I don't know if I call it standard, but it definitely tackles themes a lot more than say your typical Naruto movie.
Or your Bleach movie.
Yep, and TBZ. Let's be real. As much as we like Broly, as much as we like Battle of Gods,
Maybe,
you're mainly there for the action.
and I guess also One Piece movies not written with Oda in. I guess you could argue.
Yeah. What was the last one that came out? Gold?
Nope.
No,
Let's see.
not Gold.
Stampede. Okay, granted, Stampede was the more action-driven One Piece movie.
Yeah, I'd argue Film Gold and Strong World did have more story element based things to them.
Fair enough. Now I do know that Z has probably the best backstory for the villain and all that stuff.
Oh, for sure. Which I think actually is a good way to actually segue into questions, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, could you do? Yes, question. The first one, I believe let's see, is fitting given what we just talked about.
Yeah, could you watch this movie by itself? And here's a little bit of background knowledge I want to give to people: is that when you get the volume for Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, it's listed as a prequel. But if you know the history behind Jujutsu Kaisen, this is technically the very first thing that came out.
It was the one shot.
That's the crazy thing. Like, this is the very first thing Jujutsu Kaisen ever had.
At least the very first chapter, which I believe was a one shot, but then I think the mangaka had a different idea of how he could do the protagonist. And then I think he decided to make the one shot into a prequel and added a few more chapters to it, right? Is that it? Or was it like...
So it was in Jump Giga, and normally, from what I know how Jump Giga works, it's like a one shot, but it's like kind of like chopped into like four chapters, if you will.
Ah, okay. So in many ways,
they've done it a few times. Yeah.
So many of ways, the side characters actually existed before the main characters of Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, and so if we're gonna be actually 100% honest here, Yuta actually precedes Yuji in that sense. Yuta's actually the original protagonist.
In a sense, you could argue that the Jujutsu Kaisen, the manga series, is a sequel series.
Yeah, no, that's actually how it is.
Huh?
And here's the thing that I think that's interesting is the mangaka Gege Akutami, he didn't plan on doing the manga series for Jujutsu Kaisen. That came later.
So he was just pretty much doing like this one little mini one-shot story, and that would be it.
Yep, that's how it came to be. But actually, let me go ahead and pull this up.
So I gotta ask: does that mean that post-credit scene did not happen in the manga or something?
No. But that post-credit scene is, for lack of better words, does kind of hint that you're gonna see Yuta at some given point.
So that was it's interesting to see that it was an anime-only original thing.
Yep, and that's not even in the main story either, by the way. That scene is not there at all. So it's yeah. Let me actually pull this up right here, because he or she, because like I said, the
gender of the mangaka is not yet confirmed.
Yeah, so this is from Akutami's post-scripting.
So this has led, I think, many to assume that the author of Jujutsu Kaisen is a female mangaka, because many of them aren't revealed as female mangakas at first.
Could be, but no. So this is what they had to say. They said, "Truth be told, by the time Volume Zero's 4 chapters were finished for the monthly magazine, keep this in mind, I had no intention of trying to get Jujutsu Kaisen serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump. Thankfully, the content of Volume 0 was well received, so it was more convenient to get something serialized that was already made. Also, I was told when Volume 0 would be made into a graphic novel format, it could also be featured as a prelude to the Weekly Shonen Jump series. Where am I at? And be read by a lot more people. So I figured, why not? Let's do this. And thus, Jujutsu Kaisen was born. And when I explain it like this, I make it sound as though I had forced Jujutsu Kaisen to start, but that's not true. And this is actually kind of cool because I don't see a lot of mangakas talking about this. When I start a manga series, I don't really have a theme principles in mind. I begin by thinking about things like these twists would be interesting, or these characters might be cool, or this scene would be amazing. I think in general terms, when coming up with a story, doing it this way, I end up with a theme regardless. For this reason, the numerous ideas I've had that didn't make the cut for other manga are being funneled into Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm having a blast, and they also said, I've already decided on the final chapter's content as well as other things that will happen along the way. However, I still don't know how the dots will connect. I hope everything will turn out okay, but I'll be able to finish it. To those who read my work and support me, fan mail gives me strength. Thank you for everything. I'll do my best to not let you down. Gege Akutami. Like, that's all they have to say.
Okay.
So what's your take on that, Blue?
Well, it's interesting the fact that, let's see, this series is never planned. I can see why Yuta never to become a long series, but I can see why Yuta was replaced as a protagonist and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I can see where that happened, but I probably must admit, but it probably led a nice way of having like, okay, these prequel characters are these characters in the one shot who eventually come into the main series. You probably would have had one of those woo moments when you know, like how in audience reactions in America when they see a legacy character, if you will, showing up, it'd be like that.
Yeah, that was me when I finished Volume 0, and I went to the main story, and I was like, wait, I know these three.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so this film you can watch it by itself, and with the exception of maybe that post-credit scene, I'd say this could be the only thing of Jujutsu Kaisen you could watch and you'd be probably fine with. And
Yeah, that's actually one of one of the best things about the movie is you don't have to see the main story, and this could just be your introduction into
the
world itself.
Yeah, and let's see whether or not and that could also be like a good thing because if like the manga ends up on a bad run and all that stuff, you can always at least just jump back to this prequel manga or movie.
Yeah, we could say that.
I'm not trying to jinx it, but I'm just saying that that's also one of the benefits of this movie.
I'm just saying, if something does happen, chat might probably come after you.
But yeah. So yeah, this movie, yes, you can watch it by itself.
Definitely. That leads us actually into question 2, which you could debate this one, but I think it's pretty obvious. Could you call it a romance film? And I would say, yeah, I think you could.
For me, it's more of yes and no.
Like a tragic romance film, if that makes any sense. I would call it that.
I feel like, well, it has romance in it. I don't think it's necessarily a romance film.
No, I would definitely say it's more of a. It's like one of the subgenres for the movie than it being like the overall focus.
It was like a silent voice, and yes, I would argue it's a romance film.
Yeah.
It was more like Silent Voice. I'd probably argue that, but
No, it's more of a. Again, it's more of a character journey of overcoming like the darkness, if you will.
Yeah, depression and it's possibly suicide and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if the word suicide is demonetized on YouTube, but I guess we'll find out when you post it. But yeah,
romance is like it's one of the factors. It's not the main factor.
Yeah, I mean, you've got like the romance between Yuta and Riki, and then Yuta and Maki, which I'm curious to see if that could possibly be explored in the ongoing manga thing. I could definitely see the panda teasing about how they're in love to the three main characters and all that stuff, and her hitting him for like spreading misinformation.
I'll say this on the subject of Yuta and Rika. Akutami did say that when he was planning out the story of Volume 0, that he already had Yuta and Rika in mind as a pair from the get-go.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
I
Yeah.
think you could see that too. Just from
One thing I forgot to comment on earlier about Yuta. I do find it interesting how he's the one protagonist, the one character from the Jujutsu school that has his own unique outfit, since they mostly all wear the same school uniform.
Yeah.
No, Ritzy. No, granted, not saying that that's a bad thing. In fact, I feel like Jujutsu Kaisen does a
I
good.
think that's a good thing, honestly.
Ritzy does a good way of blending in, making all their uniforms, while the same, a bit unique for each of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, better. Let's see. In many ways, I kind of wish like Naruto did that more with the Fourth Great Ninja War when they were wearing the leaf jackets, but that's another story. But, yeah.
You know what Yuta's outfit reminds me of?
What?
It kind of reminds me of Sasuke's outfit a little bit.
Yeah, well, I think Jujutsu Kaisen's mangaka was a fan of the Big Three back in the day, so
Yeah,
I'm not surprised if he or she got some inspiration from that.
definitely.
So yeah, but that's just a quick thing I just wanted to bring up. But yeah, back to the romance stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, let's see. But it's interesting that let's see, that Yuta and Riki was like a couple, and if she probably had lived, she probably would have ended up marrying him.
Yeah.
Because that, let's see, but if it was like a standard like world of anime and manga, but of course it being a dark world of shonen.
I gotta ask, when Yuta kissed her, and I'm talking about her monster form, right?
Yeah.
What was the reaction like in your theater?
To be honest, I don't think, let's see, in UK you don't really get many reactions, except unless like woo or stuff like that. The best, you usually just get a laugh when a funny scene has happened.
Okay, because I've heard from some people that some people were just like saying "ew," and I'm just like,
Yeah,
I was
probably.
I didn't get that reaction in my theater, but part of me was just like, okay, out of context, I could see that, but the context of the movie,
Yeah. I guess it might just be a bit too like, oh, this is because like Mitzi humans making out with anything that isn't a human is for most humans is kind of gross, to be fair.
right?
Unless you're like playfully kissing your pet or something.
Right.
Uh-huh. So there's that. Yeah. Let's see, but you did remind me of something, Lucky Chi, and this is probably like the second time I've heard it, because I think it happened when I went to the My Hero Academia movie. But see, before the beginning of the movie, there was a reaction. There was someone going like Eren Yeager or Eren Jaeger or something. So it seems like the shout out at the beginning of the film, and I even heard it in the screen next door when the movie was finishing and it was starting again another screening. So it seems like there seems to be, at least with anime movies, this desire to shout out Eren Yeager's name.
It's interesting because I didn't get that with the theater I was at, so it was interesting.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if this is like a UK thing, but
it might be because I haven't got anything like that.
Yeah, but this is something that probably needs to be looked into.
Maybe in the next anime movie that comes out, you could just be like, okay, I walk into an anime movie, if I hear anybody shout Aaron's name, and I'll just let everybody know.
Yeah. So the next time we end up with, let's see, an anime movie that's big and we end up with seeing in our cinemas, which would probably be the One Piece Red film, let's be honest.
Probably.
So when that happens, I'll tell you and all that stuff, and then we need to probably investigate or ask one of our anime friends if they know what that's about.
All right.
But sorry, I'm probably distracting from like the question, but yeah. For my it's a yes, sort of no, but yes and no kind of situation.
Yeah, it hits the middle line for me, where it's like Loser said. It's like, yeah, you could call it a romance movie, but at the same time, it's not really a romance movie. So it hits that fine line of like it is, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'll say this, since this is technically a canon story, If we're looking at another story, and Blue knows what I'm referring to, that tackles
Ah,
romance, which is funny because this is technically before the main story, and
yeah.
the other one's after the main story. I'd
Yeah.
much rather take this over that one.
Yes, I think that yes, this movie handles romance so much better than that one. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and it also doesn't ruin the series as a result of it as well. Let's see, yeah. But also, one last thing I'll probably say is that I could possibly see like Yuta and Maki become a couple later down the line.
Oh, definitely.
If the mangaka chooses to do so.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I had to choose between this movie and the last, I'd say yes, this one is the better romance. Though I'd probably also argue that maybe A Silent Voice might be a better romance, even though there's no confirmed canon couples at the end.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, now, of course, there probably are some other romance movies of anime out there, but those are the three I just know about. I need to watch more anime movies. I admit it. Yes.
Oh, if James was here right now, he would say some shit to you.
Yes, I'm aware. Given last night, yes.
Who knows? That might happen later tonight too.
Yeah. So anyway, let's see. I suppose we should get to the next question.
The next question, yeah. Would you recommend it to people? And I think that's a pretty self-explanatory answer. Yeah.
Yes, I'd say for those who are willing to watch animation and comic book movie, though willing to watch animation movies or anime movies, yes. If it's let's see, though granted, let's see, this would probably not be one of the movies I'd recommend to like members of my family because I don't think they'd have interest in this type of genre. Particularly because I know that whenever I talk to my mother to go see a movie, it always ends up being live action, not animated.
That's understandable though.
Yeah, let's see, but yeah, mostly from people that let's see would watch anime or animated or comic book movies and all that stuff. Mostly those type of people.
Definitely.
Not sure about your casual person that has no idea of anime, but it could be a good way of trying to get into them, or maybe even just someone that's just interested in the supernatural horror stuff. I guess you could say.
Oh, yeah, I could definitely see that too. Yeah, especially if you're into like the supernatural genre itself. This is your type of movie.
Yeah, I could. Yeah, you could. That's probably like outside of anime, comic book kind of things. Like I could recommend it to.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's see, because I know that while anime is much more popular, it isn't going to be like as mainstream as like say your Marvel, your Star Wars, your Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings type of films.
Mm-hmm.
It'll always be kind of like a bit of a niche thing because it is from a let's see, because it's more of an Eastern culture kind of thing than a Western, I guess you could argue.
Yeah.
So let's see. On to the next question now. I take it.
Yep, which is interesting because this could be where Blue and I actually differ on this. It's the final question actually, which is this movie better than Demon Slayer Mugen Train? Now I'm gonna let Blue talk first before I share my thoughts. So
This is a difficult one. I think probably due to my more investment with Demon Slayer, I probably will favor that. Though I will probably say that let's see, I'll at least say with Jujutsu Kaisen, the one advantage it has over Demon Slayer is that you can watch the film by itself. With Demon Slayer, you're probably going to have to watch the first season of Demon Slayer before watching this movie.
That's actually what I was. It's funny you bring that up because I was gonna say the exact same thing. Is that Mugen Train is pretty good. Don't get me wrong about that. Mugen Train is a really good movie, though. You could argue the first 40 minutes are a bit padded. If I'm being perfectly honest.
But I'd probably say that probably if the let's see if the end in terms of endings, I'll probably say the Demon Slayer movie will probably be the more well remembered or probably be the more well received because of just how sad the death of when Goku was.
I was about to say spoilers, but people have probably seen season 2 by now, so.
So, yeah.
Well, actually, see, that's the other thing too. I want to bring up actually is because Mugen Train was adapted into season 2. It kind of has that disadvantage now too, where you're like, huh.
Let's see. That is, I guess you could technically say that, but I guess they figured like, okay, we probably need more than 11 episodes, so we'll do a little bit of an adaptation of the movie. That we do add a little original content at the beginning.
Yeah.
But let's see. Granted, for all we know, Jujutsu Kaisen might decide to adapt Zero into like actual episodes themselves. For all we know,
That'd be tough to do, actually.
let's
I
see.
don't know. You'd have to.
Let's see.
I'm not saying it can't work, but
Let's see. They might. Let's see. If they feel like, okay, if we're gonna eventually have this character Yuta in, and not everyone's seen the movie, okay, we'll do these 4 episodes to explain this. I can see the logic of that. And heck, even canon story movies like Dragon Ball's first 2, return movies with Battle of the Gods and the Resurrection F were adapted into 13 episodes each, which granted dragged on a bit. And even the Boruto movie eventually got adapted into a story arc in the anime.
But here's the difference, though. The Boruto movie, I would argue, did expand on things that the movie wasn't able to do. Which,
No, I'd still argue it's still not good overall. No, at least at least say the fundamental premise of the whole Boruto movie just does not work. But that will be for when we ever discuss the Boruto movie.
do you have anything else you wanted to say? Or?
Let's see this movie. Well, overall, I think let's see.
No, like which one you prefer out of the two?
Yeah.
Or was that it?
I think let's see. Let's see. Individually, I probably would prefer. Let's see, if as a solo movie, probably a Jujutsu Kaisen. But as an overall narrative story, I probably might enjoy Demon Slayer a bit more, just because I'm a bit more familiar with the characters. I guess you could say.
Yeah.
I think that's where it has the advantage, and I do think Jujutsu. And I do think the Demon Slayer movie will probably be a bit more recognized and probably be more, more known and popular because it did make $500 million in the box office. Is the highest grossing film of 2020. Now, not to say that Jujutsu Kaisen won't also probably be well received because currently it's got a box office of 172.19 million, so it's already made a lot more money than any Dragon Ball, One Piece, and especially Bleach and Naruto movies ever did. I mean,
that is true.
So yeah. So anyway, let's see. The only thing I can think of that's probably made more money than Jujutsu Kaisen movies is probably some of the early Pokemon films and the Studio Ghibli anime movies.
Yeah.
So this will probably be in terms of this will be a close behind the second kind of thing. Let's see. At least in terms of box office revenue, but still. But I can definitely say that. But yeah. Overall narrative, I'd probably prefer Demon Slayer, but as a solo film, I'd probably say Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, I think the best way I could put it is that it depends on your preference. That's what I would say. It's very preference based in that case, because I know for me, especially when it comes to like stories and whatnot, I'm more drenched into say like the journey of the character and seeing where they go from start to finish. And you could argue with the Mugen Train film, like Tanjiro's journey is still
ongoing.
Yeah, so his journey doesn't exactly end there. In that case. So for me, I would probably say Jujutsu Kaisen 0 just slightly edges over Mugen Train. Just slightly. And Bluestar is going to be looking at me now going, like, how could you?
Nah, that's fine. And let's see. Granted, it's a bit a shame that we couldn't have if chat hasn't whether or not if chat has seen this movie or not, because we could have had her to join and see how she would have felt, because she's heavily invested in both these franchises.
Oh, that's true. Like I said, guys, without chat, I wouldn't be into Jujutsu Kaisen. So
Yeah,
a lot of this is actually thanks to her.
because in many ways, both Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen have been the sort of like void to fulfill the disappointments of both Naruto and Attack on Titan for her.
Yeah.
No, probably more than Naruto, because Attack on Titan, let's see, she was only invested in a month. Really? A month or two, really?
Yeah, Naruto and Attack on Titan were like on like equal playing fields for me. So
But yeah. So I take it we're now going to the final thoughts.
yeah, final thoughts. So I know I haven't exactly given my rating on this yet, but for anyone curious, what I would give Mugen Train, since I made the comparison, Mugen Train I would probably say is like great plus, and Volume Zero or Jujutsu Kaisen Zero. I'm not gonna say it's pure perfection. It was close. There are, like I said, there are a few things where you're like, yeah, this element here and this element here could have probably been tweaked a little bit. But overall, my thoughts on Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, I would give it an amazing, arguably an amazing plus rating. So about like a 9 to 9.5 out of 10.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'd probably, let's see, about a 9. Oops, sorry, that's my alarm for 9 o'clock, sorry, in UK time. But let's see. But overall, I think my I'd probably say this movie is probably like same with Demon Slayer, like an let's see, probably be like around a 9 out of 10 kind of movie for me and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good film. Arguably, these two are some of the probably the best shonen anime movies I've probably seen.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I'd say they probably put, and perhaps in some regards, since they probably have more canon source of material, I'd argue they're probably better than Road to Ninja in that regards.
Which is saying a lot, guys.
Yeah, let's see. I really like Road to Ninja.
Road to Ninja, Bleach, Fate to Black. Is it better than Strong World? I can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah, I would probably say it's better than Strong World too.
Yeah, I definitely say that this movie is probably better than some of the big free movies that have come out, and definitely.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, probably even better than some of the My Hero Academia movies, which are, while they're enjoyable and while yes, they are canon, you don't have to necessarily watch them.
Yeah, unless they end up popping up in the manga, which as of right now, I don't think we've gotten anyone besides one particular character.
Yeah. Let's see. It's more the spin-off works they appear in.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So yeah, that's my full thought. And I will admit, one thing that I hope that Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen have proven to like studios is that they can adapt canon materials and all that stuff into actual animated movies.
Oh, definitely.
In fact, in some ways, I feel like if the studios were a bit more willing to do this in the early days, stories like Fairy Tail Zero.
Could you imagine Kakashi Gaiden?
Oh yes,
God, that would have been great.
To get into that, a part of me thinks like that could have ended up being a movie. Granted, it probably would have needed a few more chapters in its story and all that stuff.
Dude, Kakashi Gaiden as a movie, no one would have argued. Everyone would have been like, that's the best Naruto movie, period.
Yeah, that would probably have been the case. And now, granted, it probably would have needed to add at least 4 more chapters, at least. Perhaps maybe more proper, maybe like more introductions about who Obito, Kakashi, Rin, and Minato are and all that stuff at this stage.
I mean, I know the anime sort of did that, where you focus a little bit more on who they were before they went off on the mission, so maybe they could have gotten.
Yeah, granted that was more when the time when Obito was revealed to be Toby.
That's fair.
But yeah, but let's see. But arguably, you could have done. Let's see. If I was Kishimoto and thinking of doing a rewrite, I could. Let's see. The best way I could probably do it is, let's see. Let's see. You could either have it entirely as its own timeline thing, or even the movie itself being a sort of flashback thing. At the beginning of the movie, you have like Team 7 coming up from an adventure, or just trying to be nosy about Kakashi, and they end up seeing like I don't know, his Team Minato picture and all that stuff, and then they either ask him questions about it, or someone they know that knows Kakashi well tells them, or even just a mission of just finishing a mission from Team 7, and then Kakashi ends up deciding, how about I tell you the story about, let's see, the two heroes, if you will, which is like, and then you cut into like how Obito and Kakashi end up meeting, how they end up entering the academy, how they end up becoming Minato students, perhaps maybe if like a little witty montage of some of the early adventures and Obito's, crush and win before doing all the stuff in Kakashi Gaiden that we know in the manga.
Yeah.
I think that could have made it work, and I think if perhaps studios were more willing to do that, and if Kishimoto was doing the story now, I think that could have possibly worked.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Actually, let's see, the only other kind of thing I could think of that could have worked in that format is maybe Bleach has turned back the pendulum arc.
You know what's funny? I was just about to say that too.
I can't think of anything in One Piece manga-wise that could be adapted unless you want to do like Gold Roger's Journey or something, or maybe even more modern as like Odin's Journey with like Whitebeard and let's see, Roger, and then eventually his defeat with Kaido. But yeah, but I can definitely say like let's see backstory things like Fairy Tail Zero, Kakashi Gaiden, and Turn Back the Pendulum arc. This movie is proof that you could have turned those into like Naruto, like into actual full blown movies. The other thing I can think of is maybe the Minato Kushina stuff in like volume 52, I believe it's right.
53.
53, sorry. Maybe that could have also been in like its own movie, that stuff as well. But yeah. But I think going forward, I think many shonen publishers and anime studios will probably try to look for manga content that can be adapted into movies. Even if they're just like one volume in an ongoing story, or even like say, okay, do you have some sort of prequel story you have, let's see, and all that? Can you like make sure it's panned out into like a movie length and all that stuff?
The possibilities are endless right now.
I can see that happening a lot more often now.
Yeah.
Granted, I don't know any mangas right now that can probably do that right now, but I can probably say that this will probably be a future marketing strategy for like the shonen industry, given the success of both Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen 0. Because in many ways, it's a next step of evolution after, like, I suppose the 2010s did, where in the early 2000s, they were just non-canon movies, but they always did it as like an advertisement of the main franchise, if you will. Just to make a little extra, it's like sort of like a standard filler episode, but with more stronger animation, if you will. Then in the 2010s, with like the Battle of the Gods, I guess starting the trend, I guess you could argue.
Battle of the Gods started the trend of making like the movies canon.
Yeah.
That's what Battle of the Gods did. Yeah, and then now with this new generation, we have Demon Slayer.
Yeah.
That started the trend of like we can adapt like small arcs into like canon film, which I'm more so good with. I'd
probably also argue before that you'd have, let's see, movies like My Hero Academia, I guess even Seven Deadly Sins, where they would have canon movies in between their stories.
That too.
So that was like the evolution after, I guess you could argue, what Dragon Ball started, I guess. But yeah, but it's still sort of part of that bit. But yeah, but now with Demon Slayer and Jujutsu Kaisen, that's the next step going on.
No, that's all I actually just wanted to say.
Mm-hmm. let's say, like small mini arcs or just volume contents being adapted into movies.
Yep. Essentially.
Heck, it may be even, let's see, possible that, let's see, from what I'm understanding, there's been a lot more short, let's see, very short manga online series and all that stuff. That have been a bit more experimental and all that stuff for the Jump publishing industry and all that stuff that could also end up just being their own movies. So that could also be a thing as well.
It's like I said, possibilities right now are endless.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. Now, first, let's see. At the very least, Jujutsu Kaisen and Demon Slayer have shown that it can be done. We just have to wait and see if any other studio will do it.
We just gotta wait and see.
Let's see. Demon Slayer and let's see. Jujutsu Kaisen have made the way. It's just let's see what else. Let's see if other studios will follow suit and will they be successful or not.
Yeah, keep going. If you have anything else you want to add to that.
That's all I can think of adding and all that stuff. But yeah, but I definitely said that. Let's see, with the success of these anime movies, I think let's see, you probably find the studios will probably be pushing to do more anime movies. Though, of course, you have to wait and see if the series themselves will be considered successful enough to have a movie. But I would probably see. But given the success of Jujutsu Kaisen Zero, I wouldn't be surprised if they want to try and make another movie as well after this. I'm not sure what it would be about, or if there's any canon manga content that could make a movie, but I wouldn't be surprised if they try to do something else.
I don't think on that.
But even if it's just like the only movie Jujutsu Kaisen does, that's fine as well.
Yeah.
That's all I really have to say.
And honestly, I've already interjected my thoughts on that too when it comes to that topic. So, other than that, I feel like we've pretty much tackled everything when it comes to the Jujutsu Kaisen movie. But I will make one little announcement that I want to tell people is that moving forward, I'm going to be tackling Jujutsu Kaisen manga content. So look forward to that in the future.
So you'll be now doing live stream reviews and reactions then?
I'm going to be.
Fair enough.
Well, reactions. I'm still currently getting my my study room set up since I've moved recently, so it's going to be a while before I get the reactions part down. But discussion videos, kind of like what I'm doing with Eden Zero.
Okay.
Probably along those lines.
All right. Fair enough.
And other than that, that's pretty much all I gotta say. Blue, it was really fun having you on board talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, and more so, doing something a little bit differently because normally when we do podcasts, like we're both familiar with like the material and whatnot. So this is actually the first time where, well, I wouldn't say it's the first time, but it's like one of the rare occasions where one of us knows the material over
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more of just for the first time, I'm more of a casual fan or just a casual, viewer, if you will. Now, when I finally do end up really looking at the main series, it'll be interesting to have discussions with you on that.
Yeah, because I can pretty much tell Blue is like, I want to read this, but AOT happened.
So now I have to wait and see if My Hero Academia ends on a note.
Are they your hero, though, Blue? Are they?
Well, we'll have to wait and see.
Case in point, my prediction for my hero, Shigaraki will win. No, I'm joking about that. But given that, you guys, I think that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky G7.
I'm BlueStarSaber.
And we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.